Hello and welcome to Joy in Our Town. I am your host, Dee Clark. Joy in Our Town brings you the issues and problems that are faced in the local community with the hope of finding a solution. Our guest for this segment is Marcie Seidel. She is the Executive Director of Drug Free Action Alliance. She is here to discuss the challenges many parents face when talking to their children about drugs. Drug Free Action Alliance has many signature programs, including the Ohio College Initiative to reduce high-risk drinking and Parents Who Host Lose the Most. Welcome.
Thank you, Dee.
Let's start by having you tell us or sharing with us, giving us the history of the Drug Free Alliance.
Well, Drug Free Action Alliance was started in 1987 by a group of parents and concerned citizens when crack cocaine was first coming on the scene. They were noticing that it was getting into the schools and it was compromising the health and well-being of their children, and thought that we needed to take a very proactive approach to eliminating the problem. So citizens from all over Ohio gathered together, and at the time it was called it was called Ohio Parents for Drug-Free Youth, and they had a number of programs that they put together that would help to eliminate and prevent the use of substances among young people.
How long have you been involved with the organization?
I started my employment with them in 2007, but I was very associated with this organization about 8 years prior to that in my previous job. So I knew exactly the good work they did and the importance of prevention in the substance abuse field.
Why is this mission of drug prevention so important to you?
You know, when I first started working with this organization many years ago, I started to learn about the consequences of what happens to young people when they get involved in a life of using and abusing drugs. And I know that a lot of lives have been compromised, dreams have been extinguished when one takes that first step down the path into using. And it's on a universal level. It affects our economy in so many ways, it affects families in so many ways, and so whatever we can do to stop it, I wanted to be a part of. On a personal level, I'm a mother and a grandmother, and I want to make sure that my grandchildren and children grow up in environments that are healthy and safe, and that means no drugs can be a part of that.
Some states are electing to legalize marijuana. Now, how will this affect your efforts to prevent the teens from doing drugs?
It's going to make our job really very difficult in a sense, because what we're doing is kind of normalizing this substance in our society. So people now, when you say marijuana, most people start to tack the word medicine behind it or before it. And when you think of medicine, you think of something that saves lives and is not harmful and is helpful, when in fact marijuana is in fact a very dangerous drug. And so we have young people with the perception of believing it's not a harmful drug at all, and society as a whole thinking it's not harmful. And we're learning this from very strongly from a survey that the University of Michigan does, that surveys 8th, 10th, and 12th graders that find out that the marijuana use is in fact going up quite a bit, where all of the drugs, the use is going down, but over the years marijuana use is going up. And also the perception of harm is going down. So while the use of drugs, marijuana, is going up, the belief that it is harmful is going down, and that doesn't make for our job to be easy.
I can understand how the drug-free message can be complicated by parents who choose to allow their children to consume alcohol as minors. So, are you aware of the many types of situations that occur because of this?
We have had a program called Parents Who Host Lose the Most. That was implemented I believe it was in 2000, and that addresses that issue exactly. Our goal is to get out the information to parents about how unsafe, unhealthy, and unwise it is for parents to provide alcohol to their young people. And we're finding over the years of having implemented this program that we're understanding that people are realizing that it's a problem, and the number of parties are coming down throughout the state, but there's still too many out there that are actually taking place. So we're continuing that message loud and clear, that this is unsafe, unwise, and it is unhealthy, and certainly that it's something that has legal consequences for parents as well.
Now, the parents who host lose the most. I understand how the whole concept came about, but I guess if a parent is doing it, you know, in their home or however they're doing it, how then do the cops or, you know, other people find out about it?
Well, in today's world, it's actually very easy because children and young people are on Facebook and Twitter all the time. So that's how a lot of these parties get out, is that information. And so we know that law enforcement is very attuned to what's going on in the communities. But we also know that there are many parents in the communities that are very attuned as to where their young person is, what parties they're going to, where they're going to be that evening, and they can catch wind of what these situations are too. So it happens that the word and the network gets the word out, and the law enforcement are very attuned as to where these parties might be and how to monitor what's going on.
And then what are the consequences if a parent is caught hosting these types of parties?
It's in Ohio, the law states that a parent can give their own underage individual alcohol, but they cannot knowingly allow it to happen on their property or give it to a young person. So even if they don't supply the alcohol, if they knowingly are aware that this is taking place on their property, they have they face the possibility of 6 months in jail or $1,000 fine, and certainly any property that was associated with this type of party or this law can be confiscated from them. So there are severe consequences for parents on this.
And you're saying that the numbers have declined in these parties?
That the awareness and some of the number of parties happening, we're finding through our survey and research, is coming down significantly, but not nearly enough. They happen in every community, and I think if you would go into any community and ask any teenager if it's happening, most of them say yes, that they've been invited to one. They say yes, they know of parents that have hosted them. So it's still a very big problem, and there's much to do to get the word out about how dangerous these parties are.
Now, I also understand that you have another program, the Ohio College Initiative, and that is to reduce high-risk drinking. Yes. So tell us a little bit more about that.
This is this is the program when I started working for Drug Free Action Alliance that I came in and managed, and so this one is very is important to me, and I know a lot about the problems of alcohol abuse on college campuses. And what we do in this particular initiative is that we have 50 colleges, universities, and community colleges throughout the state who have joined together in sort of a coalition networking to find out how they can reduce high-risk drinking on the campuses. And there's a lot of research and evidence-based programs that show you can change the environment for that to happen. So it's prevention in the environmental sense when you put strong rules and regulations in place and enforce them, that reduces it. We know that if you provide young people different opportunities that are alcohol-free, substance-free, they will partake of them. For example, opening a rec center late at night when they might be out drinking, and so let them go work. Access and availability, and certainly marketing of it are types of things that you can do. And so the colleges come together to put these things into place and to reduce the high-risk drinking on the campuses. And it does and can make a difference.
Well, that was going to be the next question. Do you feel that the college students are adhering to this message on local college campuses?
There's still a large problem with it in the sense that there are way too many young people that are drinking a lot when they come to college. And there's a lot of students that are not. But what we're hearing about is that those that choose to drink many times drink in what we call extreme measures. They drink very high volumes in very unsafe situations that causes a lot of problems. When a young person, if a young person comes to college and has been drinking in high school, chances are they're going to continue to drink in college. If a young person comes to the campus, that first 6 weeks is a critical time. And during that time, if they decide to get involved into really healthy activities and get involved in groups that can capture their interest, then they have a much better chance of not getting involved in this type of behavior at all. And parents can play a really big part in doing that by setting the expectations of what they expect out of their college students, expecting them and setting the boundaries that we don't expect you to get involved in it. They can make a big difference as well. So the first 6 weeks are very critical.
Now, do you encounter very many teens abusing drugs and alcohol as a result of what they've witnessed in the home?
That is absolutely a huge problem. We had a local law enforcement officer stop into our agency one day, and we were talking about the problems that he was experiencing in the local school, and heroin was an issue, and alcohol was an issue, and we said, and we talked to him about, well, you know, prevention is multifaceted, and one of the biggest things you can do is bring the community together and bring the parents together and give them the tools and the resources that will help them encourage their kids to take a different path. And he said, but what do I do about the parents that are doing the drugs and the alcohol with the kids? He says, I don't know how to reach them. And it's a very difficult piece to get into. So we know that exists and we know it's there, but we believe that's not the majority of what happens. In fact, that's the minority of what happens. And so we are continuing to give those messages, positive, healthy messages that parents can do, and the lifestyles that and examples they need to set for their children to make sure that they grow up without substance abuse.
Now, what advice do you have for parents who find it difficult to talk with their teens about the dangers of drugs and alcohol?
Well, look for the opportunities, and there are many of them. There could be an ad on the television about alcohol, and so take that opportunity to ask questions about, what do you see in that ad? What's the message they're giving to you? Or give them the opportunity to talk about their friends and what's happening in their circle in their network circle. You know, have your friends ever been offered drugs? Have your and what would happen to you if you were offered drugs? What would you say? Just initiate those conversations. They can take place in the car. It can be a quick question. Look at the teachable moments if there's a story that comes up in the newspaper. So take those opportunities to just bring up the questions and talk. We encourage parents, do not lecture, do not give it, but set your expectations are, talk about what you believe should happen, and then listen to what they say. The most important thing a parent can do is to listen to what their young person is saying and let that person feed back to them. We have an opportunity to go to our website. We have a program called No, and we have a No workbook, which allows parents and gives them great tips on things that they can do to talk with their kids and to walk through those difficult conversations. So we encourage them to visit our website to find out how to do that, and to perhaps even get that workbook to help them through that difficult, navigating those difficult waters.
Now, in these last few seconds that we have left, give us your contact information, website, telephone number.
Sure. We're Drug Free Action Alliance, and our website is drugfreeactionalliance.org. And our phone number is area code 614-540-9985. And we'd be delighted to hear from parents and from all community members on how they can keep their kids and their young people safe.
Well, Marcie, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for the opportunity, Dee.
Coming up next on Joy in Our Town, the often overlooked residual effects of substance abuse. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back for the second portion of Joy in Our Town. Thanks for joining us. Once again, I am your host, Dee Clark. Our guest for this segment is Marcie Seidel. She is the Executive Director of Drug Free Action Alliance. She is here to discuss the many problems that substance abuse creates for the family. Welcome.
Thank you, Dee.
During this segment, we want to focus on the residual effects of substance abuse. So can you describe those for us?
Well, when you take a look at what happens in the family, it disrupts the family completely. The behaviors of the individual who is using and abusing a substance sort of moves into the entire family environment. And you'll find that sometimes they withdraw. Sometimes you'll find, depending on where they are in the process of that, there'll be money that disappears as they're feeding an addiction. There may be different articles in the house that will disappear. So it touches the life of everybody in the family. They start looking at the behavior rather than at the relationships and keeping the family together in a unit. They start looking at behaviors, and many times people start to try to manage the behaviors, and that's a very difficult place to be.
Now, what are some of the ways substance abuse impacts other family members?
You'll find, especially if there are young members in the family, that at times they've lost track. If it's a parent that's abusing, sometimes you'll find that they'll even have to take on the role of being the parent when their parent is not able to navigate daily life and living things that they need to do. So sometimes that will happen. Or sometimes a younger sibling will look up to the older sibling and start to cover up for things that they know are going wrong, and they don't want their brother or sister to get into trouble. And there'll be times that they'll be hiding things within the home that lots of times they'll go behind closed doors, and there's not open communication. So families are deeply affected by this, and it becomes almost like this big thing in the middle of the room that really people don't want to address, but they need to address, and it affects every part of their environment.
Now, despite all of the warnings that you're seeing, many mothers who are endangering the lives of their unborn children by abusing drugs and alcohol. So explain a little bit of that for us.
Well, there's been a good effort to get out in a public health campaign about not using alcohol when you are pregnant. And that's really becoming a very strong social norm now, where people are understanding and not doing it. The problem comes in for those that are addicted, that no matter what good information you give them, they're not going to be able to control that need to feed their addiction. And so it does put young children, and it puts fetuses into jeopardy when the mother uses and abuses substances. So the important thing at that point is the open communication to do an intervention, to try to get those individuals into treatment as soon as possible to make sure that that young life, that budding life, is not compromised. So there's a lot of that going on right now, but I do feel very strongly that we've done a good job with the alcohol piece of it. Need to do more. We need to continue that with prescription drugs, and certainly with the marijuana issue, because many people believe marijuana is a benign substance and it will hurt nobody, or certainly won't hurt an unborn child, and in fact that's not true. So we need to get those messages out.
Now, even in the intervention, how does it work? We talked about people and the women, young mothers when they're at the addicted level. So does the intervention have a positive effect on them?
In many cases it does, certainly at whatever stage it is that you can get to them. I'm not an expert on the intervention and treatment piece of it, but I do know that it's important for family members to look for signs and to symptoms of what's happening in that individual's life, and if they suspect that there is drug use taking place, that they need to intervene at that point and get professional help. And there's lots of good professional help out there that can do those things to help intervene with those situations.
Now, what are some of the ways that Drug Free Action Alliance is able to bring awareness to this problem in our local community?
We have a number of programs that we do that, and I think one of our strongest ones is we work with networks throughout the entire state of Ohio. We have coalitions in the communities that we work with to give them information and resources and practices that they can take into their own communities. Every community is different, so they need to assess what their community's situation is, and we can give them the support to do that. We have certainly the colleges that we get that information throughout the colleges and the same sort of network. We also have now what we call family engagement groups around the state of Ohio that are coming together under the banner of Solace, which are families that have been affected by loved ones dying from prescription drug abuse. And through their engagement and wanting to come together to find solace in their grief, but also they're coming together to be committed to help get information out about the problems, and we're able to help them do that as well. And then we have another program that we call No, which is for middle school parents, which gives really good practical tips twice a month to middle school parents about what the coming and trends are in drug use and abuse are, what they need to be looking out for with their child, how they can talk to their children and intervene in between the presence of drugs in their communities and schools and what their child would do. So we have a number of things that we're doing throughout the program statewide that can really get that word out and make a difference.
So with those programs, can you share with us some of the resources that are available to those who may be struggling with an addiction to drugs or alcohol?
I would encourage parents, especially in the middle school, they can go onto our website and find the No program. That's base one. To start there, we know that young people start abusing substances and using substances as early as 10. And when that happens, it seems to go and kicks up into the middle school era. So parents who have children in middle school really need to be looking very closely at what resources are there. And the No program, we feel, is a solid program to do that. So I would encourage them to come online, sign up for the No program to get those parents tips. And as I mentioned, the workbook that helps them walk through that. Also, Parents Who Host, that's a campaign that we have that allows parents and community leaders to do a blitz, certainly throughout the year they can do it, but during the prime time of prom season, graduation season, when too many of those parties are taking place, to let people know what the dangers are of giving young people alcohol, and certainly and how unsafe it is, and making that campaign aware to people out there. We also have what we call the Ohio Youth-Led Network, Prevention Network. This is a group of young people that are coming together, and young people are as much a part of the solution as the adults, and we encourage young people to become involved in youth-led activities that will keep them free and their peers free of substance abuse. And we know they are the majority. The campaign is We Are the Majority, and the majority of our young people are substance free, and they can make a difference with their communities. So those are just a few of the things that we have available, many more, and encourage people to contact us to find what more is available to them.
Have you found drug addiction to be more prevalent in certain communities or parts of town?
We have found drugs to be equal opportunity in every community. Every community may look a little bit different, but no community is immune to it, and every community has it. So it's important for, as I said, for community leaders and schools and parents to look at and assess what's happening in their community and to gather that information and then look to how they can address it. That's why so many communities now have coalitions that work within the community that involves what we call the 12 sectors of the community, and that would include certainly religion and faith-based and law enforcement and schools and businesses and just name every part of the community. They come together to look how they can solve the problem together, and they're very, very effective in prevention within the communities.
What would you say has been the most rewarding for you in your position?
I think the most rewarding thing for me is just to watch the opportunities of what we know for prevention is a science, and it's based on evidence-based programs. So we know it works, and we know that for every dollar you spend in prevention, $10 is saved in the cleanup cost of it. And it's been rewarding for me to see us be able to take that message out into the communities, into the media, into legislators, into policymakers, and for them to start to understand that we don't have to be on the back end of this problem all the time. We can actually be on the front end of this problem. And I'm excited about that, and I'm excited about the fact that our organization is leading the way to help get that done.
Can you share with us some of your success stories?
Well, I think one of the biggest successes that we have is bringing there's many, but bringing communities together to work on this. And as I mentioned several of them before, one of them is these family engagement groups that have experienced the extreme loss of the ultimate loss of a loved one to a drug overdose or a drug-related death. And those individuals have the passion and they have the heart for what happens, and they know the real-time problems of it. Then there are prevention specialists, which is the field which I work in, where we are certified prevention specialists. So it's also a discipline. And we've watched in the last year bringing those two groups together to be able to produce real positive change. And we call it the GAP, bridging the gap, grief to action to prevention, the GAP. And we've been able to bring those two groups together to lift each other up, bringing both of the best worlds together. They can make a huge difference. Prevention